Welcome to the Leading Hope Podcast with Kevin Jack. Your influence will lead people somewhere, lead them towards hope. Everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.
Welcome to Leading Hope with Kevin Jack. I'm your host, VJ Williams, here with my friend and pastor, Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your day to become a better leader. We release a new episode every Wednesday, so we'd love for you to share on social media and bring others along with us on this journey of becoming a better leader. Visit leadinghope.online to get updates and find out more about the Leading Hope community. If you're new to the podcast or haven't yet subscribed, it would mean the world if you did that right now. Also, post about it, rate and review. You will not believe how that gets this podcast in the hands of so many more leaders like you, and it truly does make a difference, and we thank you guys for doing that every week. Hey, Kevin, I am excited to announce this is the first episode of our new series, Trust. We're going to be talking about trust, and you have titled episode 40, which is today, Trust Fall.
Trust Fall.
You did it.
You want to... I just couldn't. Like, we had this whole series on trust, and then, like, you couldn't not say Trust Fall, something within there. So that's obviously what you're doing. So if you're here and you're hearing the audio of this, you're missing out so much. VJ and I are going to spend the next 10 minutes just practicing trust falls back and forth, man.
You know, the trust falls is what every time that someone says, like, they bring up, hey, we really need to talk about trust. What's something that we could do that would kind of visualize what trust is? How about a trust fall?
Why is it? How did trust falls become so, like, ridiculed yet common within our culture?
I don't know. I think you're getting ready to talk about it.
Guilty pleasure, just as a note, is every once in a while pop up on YouTube or like stupid videos is the group that does the trust fall, but the person doesn't realize what's happening. I don't know how, and they fall the wrong way. And that is my favorite thing in the world.
Oh, that's
is
good.
When someone fails a trust fall.
So break it down.
So not so much trust fall today, more so trust fail. We'll say it like that. So what we're doing in this series is we're going to talk about trust and the importance of trust. And this is my belief. My belief is that as a leader, the most important thing that you can do is to make sure that you have a healthy team, that the individuals are healthy, the team is healthy, and the team is working together. And I think the one factor that contributes to a healthy team more than anything else is the level of trust on that team, which means, as a leader, the most important thing you can focus on is the level of trust within your team. And so just make it as simple as that. Not your growth as a leader, not system, culture, objectives. Like, this all fits into it. The most important thing you can focus on as a leader is the health, which means the trust level of your team. And so I just want to spend this episode knowing that we've got some episodes coming up. Something exciting that we're going to do in the rest of the series is we're going to bring in our team here at Be Hope, a couple people who serve in different roles and positions within our organization. And I want to show you the process that we went through to develop trust, the commitments we've made to each other to keep that trust, and then to give some encouragement as to, if you're looking to do this, where you should begin and how you can develop trust within your team. But I want to spend, knowing all that's coming up, I want to spend this episode convincing you that the most important thing you can do is focus on the trust of your team. And some of you, you're already convinced, and you're the most likely ones to keep listening anyway. The ones who are likely to, like, hop off and, like, this is dumb, like, you need to hear this. This is important. Because what has happened is, the reason why we don't think this matters is because we have made trust too simple. And we have taken trust as, like, do we trust our team? And when we say that, what we mean is we think people aren't going to lie. And when trust is only viewed as, we're going to tell the truth and we're not going to lie, you have missed the essence of what trust is on your team, because it is so much more than simply, we're going to tell the truth and we're not going to lie. And here's a scenario, as you would say like this, like, imagine something in your organization goes wrong and someone didn't report it. Someone didn't wave the red flag. Someone didn't go and tell their boss something went wrong. And you go to that, you find out later on, you go to that person and you say, hey, why didn't you say it? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you report this? And they said, no one asked. But they say, I didn't have to. That's not my responsibility. They didn't lie.
Right.
Like they didn't lie. And yet, you know something's missing there.
Yeah.
And so trust is way more than just telling the truth and making sure you're not lying. That there are, we'll say it like this, there are levels to trust. And I want to help you see some of the different levels. So this is how we're going. This is the complicated definition of trust. We'll get to a simple definition by the end. This is a complicated definition. The level of confidence in your team according to your execution, thinking, and motivation. So those are the categories that we're going to talk about to help you see that trust has levels. The level of confidence in your team according to your execution, thinking, and motivation. So as we talk about execution, the simple level of trust just simply says, I will get done what I said I would get done. Now, some of you don't have that, and you would go, I wish I had that. Yeah, you need to develop trust. But that is just the base level. We trust each other. I will get done what you said I needed to get done. But there's a higher level of trust, and that is, I'll get done what I should get done in the right way. The higher level of trust has process and values worked into it. Yes, I'll get this finished, but I'm going to treat people right. Yes, I'll get this finished, but I'm going to uphold the culture and live within our systems, and I'm not going to go outside the bounds of the ethics. And so we see, as it comes to trust, the lower level is a commitment to completion. The higher level is a commitment to process and culture. So it's not important that you remember that specifically. I just want you to see that trust has levels. As we talk about like a combined mental map, we talk about the idea of how we think, the level of confidence according to the thinking. It would say it like this, like on the lower level, it's just simply tell me what we need to get done. Tell me what I need to do. Tell me what's going on here. The higher level is I know how you think through this, where you agree and where you disagree. Imagine this played out as an example within a team conversation. Like the lower level of trust just simply says, the boss told me to do this. And so this is what we do. So we agree. The higher level understands where your team disagrees, understands where process might look different down the line. It's the long but interesting conversation about the tension points that are taking place within all this. And some teams, what they do is they rush to the end and they just simply say, hey, we may disagree, but when we walk out of this room, we all need to be equally committed. And what happens is that phrase has been used so much is that we get the second part, but not the first part. So we walk out of the room and we know we should be committed to what we're doing, and yet we don't even know where we disagree. And the healthier phrase is, we know where we disagree, but we're all committed to what we have agreed upon. And this is about trust. Trust is about knowing where we think differently, where we believe differently. It's knowing the minority opinions within the group. And if your team can't handle a minority opinion, there's no trust.
Wow.
No one's lied, but there's no trust that's taking place. The last category, just to help you see that trust has levels and in the importance of it, is clear motivations. The lower level of trust just says, I trust that you are committed to what we are doing. I trust you're going to show up for your job every day. I trust you're going to work towards this organization's goals. The higher level of trust says, I know why you're committed to what we are doing. So I share this within our church all the time. We say like, hey, we're here to be hope. But let me tell you why I'm here. Because when I was in high school, I invited my best friend to church and he was bored out of his mind and he never came back again. And it created a crisis of faith for me. I said, hey, church is supposed to make it easy for people to come to God. And my church just made it that much harder. And so if I ever get a chance to be a part of a church, I want to make it as easy as possible for us to be someone's first church. They know why I'm here. They know what's driving me. Not just that I'll show up, but why I'm showing up.
Yep.
And when you know motivation, that is a much higher level of trust. And when all these come together, the integrity piece is a piece of cake. The integrity piece that we just say, I'll tell the truth. It becomes much larger, that it's, I will be forthright with all important information, good or bad. I'm going to share my opinion. You know my motivation, and you know I will carry things out to completion. And so like that is when you have those levels of trust on execution, that you know what the process is, you know how people think, and you know why they're there, which only happens through time together and through longer conversations. Then when it gets to the end of the day of saying, I trust them, you're not just saying, I trust that they're not going to lie. You trust all of it. You trust their commitment. You trust their process. You trust the outcomes. And so with all that said, so I took a really simple concept and I made it really complicated. And now I want to make it really simple again. So this is the simple definition of trust. A team that is predictable. That's what you're looking for. A team that is predictable. I know you're going to show up. I know you're going to deliver. I know you're going to be honest information. I know I don't have to ask you 100 questions to figure out what you see that I might not see, because you trust that if you voice a concern about something, that I'm not going to fire you just because you voiced a concern. Or at a much lower level, because you voiced a concern, I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to reprimand you because you voiced a concern. That is trust. It is way more than just telling the truth and not lying. And so here's to give a sports analogy on this, because you just can't talk that long and not have a sports analogy. I just don't know how to do it. You'll hear commentators talk about this. They'll talk about, oh, this team is consistent. This team is the standard. This team is they always ready to go. And then they'll talk about other teams and they'll say, you just never know which team is going to show up. You never know who's going to enter the stadium or who's going to enter the arena. You never know which team is going to show up. Low trust. That's what that is. If that is how you feel about your team, I just never know who's going to show up. My wife could ask me over and over, how was the office today? Good. It's consistent. Our team is predictable. Some days it's hard, but the hard conversations are still good. And so in work and all of life, that you would know, hey, this is who we are. We're going to show up. We are predictable, and that comes from trust. And when this happens, two quick things that come out of it. For one, trust makes everything quicker. Trust makes everything quicker. Stephen Covey calls it a trust tax. This is the delay that happens because of a lack of trust. And the best example of a trust tax is the TSA. I am not against the TSA. This is the fact that we don't trust people. So there's some areas in life that a trust tax is going to happen. You don't want this on your team. In sports, when the quarterback trusts the wide receiver, this isn't trust the wide receiver that he's not going to lie to him. He trusts how the wide receiver is thinking, how he's perceiving events, and that he can execute it. They can throw the ball far quicker in a route than they could otherwise. Tom Brady's got this great story. It's on Apple TV Plus. They just released this Code for Greatness, and he talks about his perfect game that he played was against the Bills. And there's one play in which the wide receiver runs out, and he goes, I just knew he was reading the defense the same as I was. And so long before he turned on the curl, I threw the ball. And right as he turned around, the ball hit him right between the numbers, and he caught it. He goes, because I trusted him. Yeah. He didn't say that he's going to lie. So trust makes everything quicker. So trust is a strategic advantage. But the other side of that is slow isn't fun. My greatest pet peeve in the world is I despise, this says a lot about my lack of patience, despise getting in a crowd of people, walking behind someone who doesn't know where they're going. It kills me. Like, to get into the grocery store, I know exactly where I need to go, but I've got behind someone who is just wandering back and forth up the aisles, and every time I try to get around them to the left, they veer to the left, and then I go to the right, and they veer to the right. It is the worst. Slow isn't fun. And so not only is trust a strategic advantage because trust makes everything quicker, trust is also a cultural advantage because fast is way more fun. So with all that said, man, we're going to talk about that. I hope you come in on the other episodes as we get to sit down with our team and talk about the messy process of establishing trust. But I just want you to see today how important trust is. And if you haven't worked to develop trust on your team, it is either because you did not realize how important it was or because it just seems too hard. And I want to make that as easy and accessible as we possibly can.
Oh, man, there's a ton to break down there, and we don't have a lot of time for questions because the content was so good. So I hope that you were able to take down your notes there.
VJ, that was a very kind way of you saying because the content was so long.
No, it was really good. I have a ton of stuff written down, but I'm not going to be able to get it to. But the one thing I did want to cover outside of slow isn't fun because it is
slow is not fun.
It is not fun, man. That is so good. But you said. And I'm paraphrasing, but you said the beginning of trust is when the team knows what they need to do. That's the beginning level of trust. They know what they need to do. Yeah. But the higher level of trust is formulated when we tell the why. And you do that so well because I think everybody in our church, even people that are even on our team, have trust for you on a pulpit on a Sunday morning. It's because they know why you're there.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's a trust
exactly
factor
right.
outside of our team at a different level, right? People that don't even know you on a Sunday, if they stick with you for a few weeks on a Sunday, they're going to find out why you're there. Mm-hmm. And that's so much. That's the next level. And the thing I think that we get from that is that we have situations where people, you're talking about, you want to get something done, but along the way you see an opportunity. People who have a deeper trust will take that opportunity and do what they needed to do and go above and beyond because that's a trust piece. Talk more about the team environment in that particular scenario where you get to see those things lived out.
The team environment in which trust is really...
Yeah.
So the important thing is to note, a high trust environment, what it's going to look like, meetings are going to be interesting. Conversations are going to be awkward. Because, to call someone out and to go, I disagree with that. I think your thinking's wrong. I don't think you guys can handle that. It's tough. So one of my favorite things is one of my favorite things is to watch outside people come into our team meeting. Because when outside people come into our team meeting, they think we're mad at each other.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Because we're passionate. We believe in what we're doing. And we do this thing every year. We call it Staff Advance. Our staff gets away for 2 days just to plan out and go through the year. And this last year, we had some people who had never been a part of our team conversations. And we still carried over that high level of trust within the larger group. But it was funny because, as some of the meetings were ending, their comments were, I have never seen people talk to each other like that who still like each other. Now, I want to be clear, there was no name calling.
Yeah.
There was nothing like that, but it was the shock of how can people be so brutally honest with each other and still care about each other? Yeah. And we trust each other, and we trust each other too much not to tell the truth or to only tell the truth when we're specifically asked that question.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and it's so true. Those were the things that were being discussed. Real quick, I got time for one more question. I really want you to think about this. Now, I'm going to give you the first answer to your question.
The first answer.
Yeah, and then you go from there.
I like it. These are my favorite questions.
Yeah, well, I don't know. So I'm looking at all these things. I'm looking at our team and the team that you're building, that you've built, and other things that you're leading, and we talk about what are some of the identifiers of trust. The first one you gave us already was the hard conversations are still good, right? That's an identifier of trust. What are some other identifiers?
Other identifiers of trust.
We'd say that, hey, the hard conversations, we don't hate having them.
Yeah.
We like it. It's good. What are some of those other identifiers?
I think one of the biggest ones, and we learned about this when we, as a team, went through the book Culture Code. And it came through this guy who he had this really fancy name. He's a restaurateur, which just means he like owns a bunch of restaurants, and that's kind of his thing.
I like
just
that
said
name.
he's a guy who owns restaurants. So he's a restaurateur. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but I read it every single time with a slight French accent at the end. And so there's this scene in which the guy who's writing the book is sitting down with this guy at one of his restaurants to eat dinner, and waitress is going along and she drops her tray. Very fancy restaurant, and they're in the middle of a conversation. He kind of stops the author and he goes, "Wait, watch." He said the person's there picking it up, and immediately another server came by, bent down, helped them get the stuff back on the tray, and they both got up. And he looked at the author and he said, and then he's like, author's like, what were you doing? And he goes, I'm looking to see if the energy goes up.
Oh, wow.
If our team is operating well, when accidents and mistakes happen, the energy goes up.
Yes.
When it's not, when an accident happened, the energy goes down.
Oh, that's great.
And that's this is one of my favorite things is when things go wrong in our world or in our organization, our team is actually pumped. Like, we're like, hey, crisis mode. And people are like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait. And so I think that is one of the greatest signs is does crisis fatigue and I don't mean like long term because we all get tired from doing too much work. Does it like instantly fatigue and demotivate your team, or does it energize and excite your team?
That's fantastic. That's where we'll leave it. Where do you want someone to head to know about trust? What's something you want to leave with someone today?
At the end of the day, I just want you to see this. Your job as a leader, most important thing is develop trust in your team. It makes it faster and it makes it fun. And so we're going to spend the next 3 episodes talking about how you do that.
That's fantastic. Thank you guys for joining us today. It was a fantastic episode. I enjoyed this one. Like Kevin said, we will have some of our team members in on the next few episodes, so you definitely want to join in, hear some different voices over the next couple of podcasts. That's going to be exciting, so mark your calendars for that. If you're new to the podcast or haven't yet subscribed, it would mean the world to us if you did just that. Do it right now. Also, post about it, rate and review, or both. You won't believe how that helps get this podcast in the hands of so many more leaders like you. We love hearing your stories and how the podcast is working in your life and in your businesses. Send those stories to us. Visit leadinghope.online, and we just want to hear from you guys. It's incredible to listen to your guys' stories every week. And remember, everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.